Alright, in this video, we will talk about the basic differentiation formulas. So this has been derived using the definition of derivatives that we have discussed last time. So let's start with the derivative of a constant. So the derivative of a constant is equal to 0. So why? Kasi diba sabi natin, ang derivative of y with respect to x is equal to limit as delta x approaches 0 of f of the x plus delta x minus f of x all over delta x. So as we notice, if the given function f of x is a constant, f of x plus delta x is still a constant k. So once you subtract this from there, k subtract from itself is equal to 0. And 0 divided by delta x is 0. Then limit of 0 as delta x approaches 0 is equal to 0. Thus, we have the derivative for every constant k is always equal to 0. So let's try an example. So if I have here f of x is equal to 5, we find the first derivative of that function be equal to 0 because 5 is a constant. So f prime of x is equal to 0 because the derivative of 5 is 0. So let's try another one. So what if I have y is equal to 1 million? So since 1 million is still a constant, its derivative y prime is 0. So how about y is equal to pi? So we know pi is 3.141592654. Since it's a constant, so its derivative is equal to 0. For this basic differentiation formula for a constant. So let's try the second one. So for any constant, the derivative is 0. So let's start with, or the second one will be a power formula. So for every n, for every uh, value of n, which is a set of all real numbers. So derivative of x to the n is equal to nx raised to n minus 1. So we know that this is differentiated with respect to x. So let's try an example. So what if I have here y is equal to x raised to the third power? So as you can see, ang n natin dito is equal to 3. So substituting to our formula, y prime is equal to, your n is 3, your n there is 3, x, then subtract 1 from 3. Then its derivative is equal to 3x squared. So number 2, if I have your y is equal to x raised to negative 8, so in here your n is equal to negative 8. So substituting to our formula, y prime is equal to your n, which is negative 8, then x raised to negative 8 minus 1. Subtract 1 from negative 8, that gives us negative 9. So y prime here is negative 8x raised to negative 9. Or if you wish to remove the negative exponent, this is equal to negative 8 over x raised to positive 9. So we know in Lawson exponent, the exponent negative, pag nilagay natin sa denominator, becomes positive. Now about if I have here y is equal to cube root of x raised to 8. So we know that radicals is always associated with a fractional exponent. So gamit yung principle that nth root of a raised to m is the same as a raised to m over n, we can rewrite our given y x raised to 8 thirds. So in this case, our n here is equal to 8 over 3. So since your n is equal to 8 over 3, so pwede na tayong gumamit ng formula ulit. Since this 8 over 3 is a set or belongs to the set of all real numbers. So y prime is equal to, that's your n. So your n is 8/3, so that must be put sa front. X raised to your exponent 8/3 minus 1. Then subtracting 1 from 8/3, that gives us 5/3. So y prime is equal to 8/3 x raised to 5/3. So this will be our final answer. So generally, ang ginagawa lang natin, pinupunta lang natin yung exponent sa unahan, then magsusubtract tayo ng 1 from that exponent. So, last, as example, so what if I have here y is equal to 7 over square root of x raised to the 5th power. So again, we associate this radical on the denominator as fractional exponent. Pwede natin siyang i-rewrite as 7 over x raised to 5 halves. Since ang index ng square root ay mayroong 2 doon. So that is 5 over 2 using this principle in algebra. And since meron ulit tayong principle that a positive exponent, pag inakyat natin sa numerator, it becomes a negative exponent. So this is by virtue of this property. So this therefore can be written as 7 x raised to negative 5 halves. Sorry, it should be 1. Because this leads to our next principle. So ano ba yung next principle natin? So ilagay natin sa next principle, that is derivative of a constant multiplied by a function of x is equal to k derivative of f of x. So since ang ginamit lang nating principle sa pagkuha ng derivative ay limit, therefore the principle that holds is sa limit ay mag-hold din sa derivative. So, di ba we have a principle sa limit that limit of a constant multiplied by a function of x as the x approaches any number is equal to constant limit of f of x as x approaches any number. So, yung constant lang, inilalabas lang natin dun sa ating limit of k f of x. Lalabas lang natin siya dun sa outside the operator. And similarly, kapag kumukuha tayo ng derivative of a constant multiplied by any function of x is equal to k, that constant, ilalabas lang din, times the derivative of that function. So in this example, we have y is equal to 7, x raised to negative 5 halves. We know that 7 is a constant, so this gives us y prime is equal to 7 times the derivative of x raised to negative 5 halves. So again, this is differentiated with respect to x. And then we will use the second formula that we had. So y prime here is equal to 7 multiplied by the derivative of x raised to negative 5 halves. Gagamit tayo ng principle na derivative of x to the n is equal to n x to the n minus 1. So again, pupunta lang yung exponent sa unahan, it becomes negative 5 halves. X raised to n, which is negative 5 halves, minus 1. So you subtract 1 from negative 5 halves. So y prime here is negative 35 over 2. X raised to negative 7 halves. Because once you subtract 1 from negative 5 halves, it becomes negative 7 halves. Or again, if you wish to eliminate this negative exponent, pwede natin siyang ibaba as negative 35 all over 2 x raised to 7 halves. Or this can be written as negative 35 over 2 square root of x raised to 7. So this will be our final answer. So another example, what if I have here y is equal to 7x to the 42. So that is um, yung constant is 7. So, sige, baguhin natin yung constant. Baka sabihin, bakit kaya laging ano? So, 5x raised to 42. Okay? So, this constant 5, ilalabas lang natin sa operator. So, this is 5 times the derivative of x raised to 42. So, saan inilalagay yung exponent? Kapag ka-derivative of this, so ilalagay lang natin yung 42 sa unahan. So, this becomes y prime. Sorry, I forgot to put the y prime here. Is equal to 5 multiplied by 42 x, then 42 minus 1. Then subtract 1 from 42. So y prime here is equal to 42 times 5 is 210. Yes. Okay, x raised to 41. So this will be our final answer. So again, basically, what we are doing is you multiply this exponent sa ating constant. So halimbawa, if I have here another function y is equal to 3x raised to the 8th power. So what we do is basically we multiply this 8 sa ating constant sa labas, it becomes 24, and then subtract 1 from your exponent. So it becomes 24x raised to 7. How about y is equal to, say, 3/4 x raised to the 6th power. So again, what we do is to multiply 3/4 by 6. That's 3/4 multiplied by 6. X raised to, subtract 1 from 6 is 5. Then simplifying that, y prime is equal to, I forgot to put the y prime, so don't forget that. So because you already differentiated, so dapat hindi na siya equal sa 5. So dapat meron na tayong prime. So this is 6. That cancels out. May 2, may 3 sa taas. So it becomes 9 halves. X raised to the 5th power. So again, basically, you multiply the exponent sa ating constant and then subtract 1 from our exponent. The next principle is the derivative of sum. So the derivative of f of x, or sum and difference, pwede natin gawing difference. Since ang difference naman ay sum lang din ng isang positive at ng isang negative number. So f of x is plus or minus g of x plus or minus h of x plus or minus dot dot dot. So meaning to say, kung siya ay 4 terms, 5 terms, 8 terms, etc. etc. So this is derivative of the first term. So your first term, f of x. Then you will follow the operation in between. If it's plus, it's plus. If it's minus, it's minus. Derivative of g of x, the second term, plus or minus the derivative of the third. So kung may fourth, plus or minus the fourth, plus or minus the fifth, plus or minus the sixth, so on and so forth. So it depends upon how many terms ang function na dinidifferentiate natin. So examples, I have here, find the first derivative of the following. So if I have here f of x is equal to 3x minus 2, so what we will do is to take the derivative of the first term, that's 3x, minus the derivative of the second, 2. So this gives us y prime of x, f prime of x is equal to 3 times the derivative of x minus the derivative of 2. So the derivative of x, since constant ito, so by using the previous principle, yung constant inilalabas lang, so this becomes 3. So since ang x natin ay may exponent na 1, so that it's multiplied by 1, x raised to 1 minus 1 is equal, minus derivative of a constant is 0. So this gives us 3. Because 3 times 1 is 3, and x to the 0 is 3. So this is our final answer. So what if I have f of x is equal to x squared minus 3x plus 5? Same is true with what we did here. So this is f prime of x is equal to derivative of our first minus derivative of our second plus the derivative of our third term, 5. So again, we use this negative since ang operation in between ay negative. So we use the power formula. So ang ginagawa natin sa power formula, pumupunta lang yung exponent sa unahan, then subtract 1 from 2. So that is to the 1. Minus derivative of 3x, that's 3 times the derivative of x. Plus the derivative of 5 is 0. But derivative of x is equal to 1 since meron na tayong principle na ganito. So, you put 1 sa front, then subtract 1 from 1, and 1 minus 1 is 0, and x raised to 0 is 1. So, derivative of x is equal to 1. So, this therefore gives f prime of x is equal to 2x minus 3. So, basically, pwede naman nating idiretso na. You just have to take the derivative of the first and the derivative ng first term natin. So, di ba, ang sabi natin, nilalagay lang natin yung 2 sa harap and then subtract 1 from that. 2, that is 2x. So, ito siya. And then derivative ng negative 3x, that's minus 3. And then the derivative of 5 is 0. So, 2x minus 3 ang ating final answer. And what if I have x squared minus 3x plus 5 raised to the second power? So, meron tayong principle sa algebra. So, since this is raised to the second power, meron tayong a plus b plus c raised to the second power is equal to square of the first plus square of the second plus square of the third plus twice the product of the first and the second plus twice the product of the first and the third, and finally twice the product of the second and the third term. So pag in-expand natin yan, your f of x is the same as square of the first, so this is x squared squared plus negative 3x raised to the second power. So as you can see, b is negative 3x kasi we can rewrite minus 3x as plus negative 3x. So pwede natin siyang i-rewrite as plus negative 3x. So that's why your a here is x squared, your b is negative 3x. So ito yung x squared, ito yung negative 3x, ito yung 5. Plus 5 squared. Then, so yan na yung ating first 3 terms. A squared plus b squared plus c squared. So that is plus twice the product of the first, which is x squared, and the second term b, which is negative 3x, plus twice the product of the first, which is x squared, and the third term, which is 5, plus twice the product of the second, which is negative 3x, multiplied by the third term, 5. Then we can simplify f of x here is equal to x to the fourth plus 9x squared plus 25. So what we did is to apply this. So this is x squared squared, that's x to the fourth. Negative 3x raised to the second power. Negative 3 squared is positive 9. X raised to the second is x squared. 5 squared is 25. Minus 3 times 2 is 6. This is x cubed. Because this is to the 1. X squared times x is x cubed. Plus 5 times 2 is 10 x squared. Minus, this is 30 multiplied by x. So that's 2 times negative 3 is negative 6 times 5 is negative 30x. Then we have f of x is equal to x to the fourth minus 6x cubed. We can combine like terms. Plus 19x squared because we can combine 9x squared and 10x squared here. Minus 30x. Plus 25. So what we get is just the expansion of this trinomial here na na-erase natin sa second power. So ang required is the first derivative. So dun sa principle natin, kukunin daw natin ang derivative ng first That's derivative of the first term x to the fourth. Then, since ang second term natin ay 6x cubed, inilalabas lang natin yung constant. So, this can be written as negative x times the derivative of the second term. Plus 19 is a constant that must be put outside the operator. This is x squared minus 30 times the derivative of x plus the derivative of the constant 25. So, since ang derivative ng constant ay 0, then we have here f prime of x be equal to, so this is x to the fourth, yung power formula natin, pupunta sa unahan, yung 4, then subtract 1 from 4, that's 3, minus, mumultiply natin yung constant sa ating exponent, so that is negative 6 times 3 is negative 18, then subtract 1 from 3, plus 38, because 19 multiplied by our exponent, 2 is 38, then subtract 1 from 2, that is 1, minus 30, and because the derivative of dx is 1. So now we have f prime of x is equal to 4x cubed minus 18x squared plus 38x minus 30. So this will be our final answer here. So that's the end of the presentation for this session.